Be me, 23, just graduated from the Orbital Academy. Top-tier pilot license, crisp, white uniform, polished boots. The kind of guy who walks down the corridor like he owns the station. Grew up in Sector 4, the mid-rims of the colony. Not the slums, but definitely not the sky spires where the elite lived. My life was the classic setup. Dad was a technician Class C. Never really knew what he did. He'd come home to our cramped unit smelling like burnt ozone and sulfur, grease stains permanently etched into his cuticles. He'd sit at the metal table, staring at his nutrient pack, barely spoke, just the sound of his spoon scraping the bowl and the hum of the air recyclers. Mom always made excuses for him. He's tired, Kian. The station needs him. I swallowed that lie for years. My friends at the academy were different. Sons of admirals, daughters of corporate liaisons. They talked about their dads closing deals in the core worlds, or commanding fleets on the frontier. My dad fixed pipes, or wires, or whatever broke in the bowels of the station. It felt pathetic. The narrative in our group was simple. If you aren't leading, you're bleeding. If you aren't in the officer's mess, you're just ballast. Dad never fought back against my attitude. He'd just leave his heavy mag boots by the airlock, slump into his chair, turn on the holo news and zone out. The unit always smelled faintly of chemical coolant when he was home. I asked him once why he didn't try for a promotion, why he didn't apply for the flight deck maintenance crew at least. He just looked at his hands, scarred and shaking slightly. Someone has to keep the engines cool, kid. It's honest work, I scoffed. Honest work doesn't get you a view of the stars. It gets you a cramped box in Sector 4 and a son who's ashamed of you. I didn't say that part out loud, but I thought it. Loud and clear. Final year of the academy was a blur of simulations and ego stroking. Me and the boys would hit the gravity bars after training. Drinking synth ale? Complaining about our burdens. Jax, son of a fleet commander, would whine about his dad pressuring him for top marks. Mara would roll her eyes about her mom buying the wrong color speeder. I'd nod along, blending in. My mom always gave me the same speech. Your father is working double shifts so you can afford the simulator time. He believes in you, Kian. It felt like noise. Sure, the credits appeared in my account, but credits are just numbers. They don't replace presence. They don't replace guidance. In my head, Mom was the hero. She managed the budget, she cooked the meals, she kept the unit clean. Dad was just a ghost who paid the rent. A tired, smelly ghost. The resentment built up slowly. Watching Jax's dad visit the campus, clapping him on the back. Watching Mara's parents video call her during lunch, laughing. Me? I got text messages. Good luck. Work hard. Brief. Cold. Like he was writing a technical manual, not talking to his son. I turned that jealousy into fuel. I'd show him. I'd show everyone. I wasn't going to end up in a gray jumpsuit smelling like sulfur. My 23rd birthday came around a month before graduation. The only thing I wanted was a custom HUD visor for my flight helmet. Top of the line. Target tracking. Thermal overlay. It cost 2,000 credits. A fortune for us. Pocket change for Jax. I dropped hints for weeks. Showed Dad the brochure on the datapad. He rubbed his eyes. That gray dust stuck in his lashes. That's steep, Kian. We have the energy bill coming up. I heard you aren't worth it. Mom tried to make a nice dinner. Synthesized steak, real candles. We sat there, waiting. The empty chair at the head of the table staring back at me. Comms unit buzzed. Dad's voice, distorted by static and machinery noise. Leak in the thermal exchange. Sector 9. Can't leave until it's sealed. Happy birthday, kid. Really, I didn't even say goodbye. Just cut the connection. The silence in the room was louder than the station's engines. I ate the steak in 3 bites, angry tears stinging my eyes. Later, I messaged the group chat. Old man bailed again, scrubbing toilets in the lower decks probably. Jack sent a laughing emoji. At least he's consistent, bro. I laughed too, but my chest felt tight. 2 weeks later, my simulator rig crashed. Software corruption. I needed it for the final exams. Panic set in. I called Dad, desperate, expecting him to say figure it out. Instead, he answered on the first ring. Breathing heavy, alarms blaring in the background. I can't come up there, Kian. I'm deep in the vents, but I know a guy in systems. Telos. I'll message him. He'll fix it for free. Just tell him Jonas sent you. My blood boiled. I didn't want his charity connection. I didn't want some grease monkey doing me a favor. Forget it. I don't need your lower deck friends touching my gear. I'll handle it myself. I hung up. Dad didn't call back. I ended up paying a premium for a rush fix from an official tech. Drained my savings. Blamed him for that too. If he was a real dad, he'd have just transferred the money, or came up and fixed it himself. But he was always busy, always in the vents, whatever that meant. Venting to Jax and Mara later felt good. Jax shook his head. Man, blue collars are all the same. No initiative. They think showing up to work is the same as showing up for life. I nodded, feeling validated. They understood. He didn't. Graduation day loomed, the biggest day of my life. The ceremony was in the observation deck, glass ceiling looking out into the nebula. Admirals, politicians, the whole station hierarchy. I kept telling myself I didn't care if he came. Better if he didn't, honestly. He'd probably show up in that faded jumpsuit. Embarrass me in front of the fleet commanders. One night, Dad was in the kitchen icing his shoulder. Huge bruise, purple and black. I'll be there, Keon, he said softly. Put in the request a month ago. Approved. I smirked, grabbing a water pouch. Sure, Dad. Unless a pipe bursts, right? He didn't look up. I'll be there. Graduation morning. The station felt like it was vibrating. My uniform was perfect. Medals gleaming. Mom was in the front row wearing her best dress. She looked small among the opulent uniforms of the other families. The seat next to her was empty. I scanned the crowd from the stage. Jax's dad was there in full dress uniform. Mara's parents were waving a banner. My row? 1. Mom. 1 empty chair. I felt the smirk tug at my lips. Prophecy fulfilled. Jax nudged me. Where's the ghost? I shrugged. Casual. Working. You know how it is. Someone's got to plunge the clogged drains. Jax chuckled. Classic. The ceremony went on. Speeches about duty, honor, the future. When they called my name, I walked across the stage. Head high. Took the datapad with my commission. Shook the Admiral's hand. Glanced at the crowd one last time. Still empty. Mom was clapping, crying, but her eyes kept darting to the door. Hoping. Disappointed. I wasn't disappointed. I was vindicated. I sat back down, anger simmering under my polished exterior. Pulled out my comms. Tied the message under the table. Thanks for proving me right. Biggest day of my life. Empty chair? Don't bother coming home tonight. Sent. The screen glared at me. No read receipt. Just delivered. After the ceremony, we hit the promenade. Champagne, photos, music. Everyone celebrating. I was the life of the party. Loudest laugh. Biggest toasts. To the parents who actually showed up, I yelled. Everyone cheered. Jax clapped my shoulder. You made it despite him, man. That's the real victory. I felt strong, independent. I didn't need him. I never did. Got home late. Unit was dark. Mom was sitting at the kitchen table. No candles this time. Just a single data slate glowing in front of her. She looked old. Tired. I tossed my cap on the counter. He didn't even show up for dinner, huh? Mom stood up. The movement was sharp, violent. Sit down, Kian. I froze. I'd never heard that tone before. Not from her. She slid the data slate across the table. It was a bank transfer receipt, dated 3 months ago. The amount was 50,000 credits, sent to the Academy Administration. Subject, flight simulation access and gear upgrade, Keon V. I stared at it. What is this? Her voice trembled. You think your scholarship covered the advanced flight modules? You think the Academy just gave you extra simulator time because you were special? She slammed her hand on the table. We were denied the loan. The bank laughed at us. Your father sold his pension. He sold his retirement shares in the station guild to pay for your flight hours. The room went quiet. I blinked, trying to process. Okay, so he paid. That's what parents do. He still wasn't there today. Mom looked at me with something like disgust. He wasn't there because he's in the med bay. The air left my lungs. What? He took a triple shift in the thermal core, voluntary hazard duty. Because selling the pension wasn't enough to cover your final tuition hike. He's been working in the red zone for 3 weeks straight. Gamma radiation levels that would kill a normal man. He collapsed this morning, right when he was clocking out to come to your ceremony. She pulled up another image, a security feed still. Dad, in a heavy lead-lined suit, slumped against a bulkhead. Visor cracked. I felt sick, nauseous. He didn't tell me. He didn't want you to worry, Mom whispered. He wanted you to focus on flying. He sat in that radiation bath for 12 hours a day, thinking about you up in the stars. And you sent him that text. She picked up her comms. Played a voice note. Dad's voice. Weak. Slurring. Don't tell the kid Maria. Don't ruin his day. Tell him. Tell him I got stuck fixing a toilet. He hates that. Makes him feel better about himself. Just tell him I'm proud. The recording ended with a coughing fit that sounded like wet gravel. I stood there. The freshly pressed uniform felt heavy, suffocating. Where is he? Sector 9. Critical care. I ran. I didn't take a transport. I ran through the corridors. Down the elevators. Past the gleaming shops of the upper levels. Down into the gray steel of the mid-levels. Down further. Into the industrial sectors I used to mock. The air got thicker here. Smelled like ozone. Like sulfur. Like Dad. I burst into the med bay. It wasn't the clean, white hospital of the upper decks. It was crowded. Noisy. Machines beeping erratically. I found his pod. He was hooked up to a dialysis machine. Skin was translucent. Veins black against the gray pallor. Hair thinning. He looked small. So much smaller than the man who used to carry me on his shoulders. His comms unit was on the tray next to him. Screen lit up. My message was still there. Don't bother coming home. He had read it. I sank to my knees beside the bed, gripped the metal railing. I wanted to say something. Anything. But my throat was closed shut. A nurse walked by, looked at my dress uniform, sneered. You the son? I nodded mute. He's been talking about you all week. Every time the pain meds wear off. My boy's gonna be a pilot, he says. My boy's gonna touch the sky. She checked the monitors. He took a lethal dose of rads, you know. The shielding in Sector 9 failed. He went in manually to seal it. If he hadn't, the ventilation to the upper decks would have been poisoned. Saved half the station, including your little graduation party. She walked away, leaving me with the silence, and the beeping, and the man who saved the station while I was drinking champagne. I sat there for hours, watching his chest rise and fall, thinking about the grease monkey comments, thinking about the lazy jokes, thinking about every time I rolled my eyes when he was too tired to talk. He wasn't tired because he was lazy. He was tired because he was carrying the weight of my world on his back. The next day, I went back to the academy, met up with the group. Jax was laughing about a hangover. Hey, Ace, how was the family reunion? Did the old man finally scrub the grime off? The group laughed. Easy. Practiced. I looked at them. Really looked at them. Soft hands, clean uniforms, lives paid for by invisible sacrifices they would never acknowledge. I felt a cold rage, not at them, at myself, for being one of them. He's in the hospital, I said. Voice flat. Jax blinked. Oh, sucks, man. Too much syntheo? Radiation poisoning, I said, from the core? Where he works so people like us don't melt. The table went quiet. Mara stirred her drink, uncomfortable. Well, that's his job, right? It's what they're paid for. I stood up. Yeah, it is. And he's better at it than we'll ever be at anything. I walked away, left the group chat, blocked the numbers, went down to Sector 9, found the foreman, big guy, cybernetic arm, asked him to show me where Dad worked. He looked at me skeptical. You, the pilot kid? Yeah. You won't like it. Show me. He took me to the thermal core. The heat hit me first, like a physical wall. Even with the safety suits, it was suffocating. The noise was deafening. Turbines screaming, pipes rattling. He pointed to a narrow catwalk, suspended over a pit of glowing coolant. That's his spot. Manual valve control. Sensor array broke 5 years ago. Company won't replace it. Too expensive. So Jonas goes out there. Every day. Checks the pressure by hand. Feels the vibration in the floor to know if it's gonna blow. I stared at the catwalk. It was rusted. Slippery with condensation? One slip and you're ash. He did double shifts here? I asked. Triple, the foreman said. Said he needed the hazard pay. Something about a visor or a ship part. I gripped the railing. My knuckles turned white. The visor. The stupid vanity hut I wanted for my birthday. He killed himself for a toy I didn't even need. I went back to the hospital every day. Sat in the chair. Read flight manuals out loud to him while he slept. Hoping he could hear the technical jargon. Hoping he knew I was there. One evening, his eyes opened. Cloudy, unfocused. He saw me. Tried to smile. It looked painful. Hey, Ace, he rasped. The nickname felt like a knife. Hey, Dad, did you get the commission? Yeah, Dad, I got it. Good, good. He closed his eyes again. Fly high, kid. Don't look down. We'll handle the ground. He died 2 days later. Systems failure. Multiple organ collapse. The funeral was small. Mom, me, and about 50 guys in orange jumpsuits. Smelling of ozone and sweat, they took off their helmets, stood in silence. The foreman walked up to me, handed me a box. He left this in his locker, said to give it to you when you graduated. I opened it. It wasn't the HUD visor. It was a patch. Old, faded. Terraforming Corps first wave. I looked at the foreman. He was a pilot. Best damn pilot in the sector, the foreman said. Flew the heavy haulers during the colony drop. Grounded himself when you were born. Said the radiation up there was too risky for a father. Took the sunk job to stay close to home. To stay close to you. I held the patch, my thumb tracing the embroidered wings. He gave up the sky so I could have it, and I mocked him for being on the ground. I went home. Packaged up the fancy HUD visor. Threw it in the recycling chute. Put on my uniform, pinned his old patch on the inside of my jacket, right over the heart, where no one could see it. But I could feel it. I got my first assignment a week later, escort mission. High orbit. Before launch, the other pilots were chatting, bragging about their custom thrusters, comparing bank accounts. One of them looked at me. Hey, Keon, heard your dad was a sump rat. Must be nice to finally get some fresh air, huh? I looked at him, calm. Cold. My dad was a core stabilizer. He held the station together with his bare hands, and he could fly circles around you in a brick. I climbed into the cockpit, fired the engines. The rumble felt different now. It didn't feel like power. It felt like a promise. I looked down at the station below, a spinning disk of metal and light against the darkness. I pictured the vents, the pipes, the dark, hot places where men in orange suits kept the lights on. I keyed the mic. Aegis? 7 Control? This is Keon. Cleared for departure. Roger that, Ace. Good hunting. I pushed the throttle forward, pinned back into my seat, G-force pressing on my chest. For a second, the vibration of the ship matched the memory of the trembling floor in the core. I whispered into the empty cockpit. Copy that, Dad. I'm flying. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't flying away from him. I was flying for him. The stars looked different, not like diamonds to be won, but like lights kept burning by someone in the dark. I checked the fuel gauge. Green? Thanks, Dad. I won't waste it. End.